whole thing that I wrote has suddenly come to life, and it's an amazing testament to these people, especially it's either.
While Stranger Things has been doing a fantastic job at giving us an 80s horror set and science fiction show in the vein of similar films from that era, but it seems to be filled with a huge amount of anachronisms. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Celeb Mania. Today we are going to be talking about the top 10 small details in Stranger Things only true fans noticed. Make sure you stay until number 1, as you don't want to miss the most unexpected mistake made in Stranger Things that will surprise you. Number 10. The value of Plancks' constant was according to 2014. On the show, grown-ups Jim Hopper and Joyce Byers have infiltrated a secret Russian base deep beneath Starcourt Mall, and they're trying to crack open a safe that contains 2 keys to close the gate. As our young heroes try to save the world from ending again, only one thing can help them close the gate to the Upside Down and effectively kill the creature trying to destroy everything they hold dear in 1985. Plancks' constant. Susie recites Plancks' constant as 6.626070004 without the units that come after it. Hopper tries the code, and the safe opens, so he and Joyce can retrieve the keys. But scientists at the National Institute of Standards and Technology noticed during their viewing of Stranger Things that this is the value established for Plancks' constant in 2014. In 1985, when the show is set, it would have been the value established in 1973, which is 6.626176, 10 over -34. Number 9. The periodic table has modern elements. Unfortunately, because of that realism, a simple mistake in the Stranger Things 2 premiere episode has science lovers up in arms. About 15 minutes into the second installment, the young characters sit in a science class taught by Mr. Clark, the beloved faculty representative of the Hawkins Middle AV Club. As he speaks about the human brain, a period table can be seen on the wall behind him. Stranger Things takes place in 1984. As Reddit user Dak Manella points out, 9 of the elements on that periodic table weren't discovered until at least 1994, 10 years later. The elements in question are in the bottom right section of the table, and they include Darmstadtium, Roentgenium, Copernicium, Ununtrium, Flerovium, Ununpentium, Livermorium, Ununcemptium, and Ununoctium. It's an easy mistake to make, especially on a series where there are so many different pieces of the set to worry about. Even so, it's one that the team probably wishes they could go back and fix. Number 8. The boys should not know about proton packs. In Season 2, the boys get into Ghostbusters in a big way. In the Halloween episode, they even dress up like the characters in homemade outfits, with DIY versions of the group's trap and proton packs. Some of these are period accurate. There were no licensed Ghostbusters outfits or toys for years. But the boys still shouldn't be calling the proton packs by their colloquial names. In the first film, proton packs are described as positron colliders, and it's not until the sequel, 1989, that they are referred to as proton packs. Number 7. They should eat Kentucky Fried Chicken and not KFC. In an opening scene of Season 2, Steve and Nancy are having dinner and enjoying a big bucket of KFC. Steve even said that he loves KFC. As agreeable as Steve is, he couldn't have professed his love for KFC because it was called Kentucky Fried Chicken all the way until 1991. Prior to that, the graphics for the company read Kentucky Fried Chicken, not KFC. The company never technically changed their name, just their branding. They felt that it was easier for people to remember and to say. Number 6. The Walkie Talkies should not have been used. Throughout all 3 stories, the boys communicate using their Walkie Talkies, which become essential when communicating between the Upside Down and the real world. Although the Walkie Talkies they use are TRC-214s, a super expensive device which none of the kids, and especially Will, who comes from a poor background, would have been able to afford. As Wired previously pointed out, they're the kind of radios that were used at construction sites or events. Another problem is the fact that they may not have even been invented when they are first shown as they first appear in the 1985 Radio Shack catalog. Prior to that, the boys would have used a TRC-208, 206, or 201, all of which were available in the 1983 Radio Shack catalog. Number 5. The music doesn't make any sense. None of the music in Stranger Things makes sense aside from Should I Stay or Should I Go, which was released in 1982. Just about every other song comes from later in the decade. During Will's funeral, New Order's Elegia is heard, but the song wasn't released until 1985 on the album Lowlife. At the end of Season 1, Episode 2, a cover of Hazy Shade of Winter by the Bangles plays, which wasn't released until 1987 for the soundtrack to Less Than Zero. Many of the other tracks heard in the series are spot on with the time period, such as Heroes by David Bowie and I Melt With You by Modern English. So it's clear that the Duffer Brothers were just trying to set a mood that's more about gloomy indie rock than period accuracy. Number 4. There couldn't be 120 crayons in the box. In the back half of Season 2, Joyce does her best to remind Will who he is in order to purge the creature from the Upside Down that's using him to spy on everyone. She asks if he remembers the 120 crayon box she bought him when he was 8, which would have been in 1979. However, at the time, the largest amount of crayons that Crayola sold was a box of 79. Crayola didn't offer the box of 120 colors until the early 90s. Joyce is a great mom, but she doesn't have a time machine. Number 3. Barb drives a car that didn't exist in those years. The most glaring, in-your-face anachronism comes in the form of Barb's Rabbit convertible from 1988. Before Barb was killed by the Demogorgon in the first series, fans noticed there was an issue with the car she was driving. The car is definitely a great ride for a suburban teenage girl, but it didn't exist in 1983. Gearheads will notice that Barb's car features a plastic-covered bumper and small inner headlights, features that weren't available until the end of the decade. The rest of the cars in the series are spot on, so it's odd that this car slipped past inspection. Number 2. The red color of M&Ms was not created. When the gang are in the hospital waiting room while Nancy visits Doris Driscoll, Mike tries to make up with Eleven after he lied to her about where he was by offering an olive branch in the shape of a handful of M&Ms. On closer inspection of the sweets, fans see a red M&M about to fall into Eleven's palm. But this color of M&M did not exist in 1985 when the show is set. Mars Inc. discontinued the red-colored sweets in the 1970s after the Food and Drug Administration ruled red dyes were not safe to eat. The shade was later brought back in 1987. As Comic Book points out, red M&Ms had been removed by Mars Inc. in 1976. This was due to the controversy involving red food coloring, FD&C Red No. 2, also known as amaranth. In 1971, Russia had done a study into the red coloring, suggesting links to cancer. At the time, red M&Ms were not colored using the red additive involved, but because of the potential links to it being a carcinogen, Mars Inc. decided to remove the red M&Ms regardless, in order to avoid confusion with their product. As a result of this change, orange M&Ms were added to replace the red ones. Number 1. The Chicago skyline was all wrong. In the episode, 11, Millie Bobby Brown leaves Hawkins to head to Chicago in hopes of gaining information about her own mysterious past. Throughout the episode, the iconic Chicago skyline is seen multiple times, most often lit up by its skyscraper's lights. The big issue that fans had with the episode and city's depiction was that, given that the series takes place in 1984, multiple buildings were seen despite them not existing until the 90s and 2000s. Most notably, Trump International Hotel and Tower, which opened in 2009, the 2 Prudential Plaza building, which opened in the 90s, and the Blue Cross Blue Shield Tower, which opened in 1997 and got an expansion in 2010, can all clearly be seen and recognized in the show. The timeline inaccuracy wasn't the only issue that people raised about the skyline, as the geography of the episode was also blatantly wonky. Another scene in this episode featured the character wandering around near a pawn shop, as the skyline was prominently featured in the background, which would result in this storefront also being in the middle of the lake. The episode, which doesn't explore any other characters from the series, or even events from Hawkins, was a jarring surprise for many viewers who felt the episode took them out of the show's larger narrative. While you're here, go ahead, like, subscribe, and share our channel for more exciting and interesting videos. I'll see you there.